Hi, good morning, students. As you know, yesterday we left Romeo and Juliet as they were parting the balcony scene, and now, as he promised, he was going to head to Friar Lawrence to see if he can arrange for the marriage of himself and Juliet. So here we are in Act 2, Scene 3. Again, the synopsis is that determined to marry Juliet, Romeo hurries to Friar Lawrence. The friar agrees to marry them, expressing the hope that the marriage may end the feud between their families, of course, between the Capulets and the Montagues. We see Friar Lawrence in a field. He's with a basket. He seems to be in a very positive mood, but there's some dark and positive imagery, as you can see in his speech. So let's go through that soliloquy quickly, and then we'll get into his meeting with Romeo. The gray-eyed morn smiles on the frowning night, checkering the eastern clouds with streaks of light, and fleckled darkness like a drunkard wheels from fourth day's path and Titan's fiery wheels. Now ere the sun advanced his burning eye, the day to cheer and night's dank dew dry, I must uphill this osier cage of ours with baleful weeds and precious juiced flowers. The earth that nature's mother in her tomb, what is her bearing grave, that is her womb, and from her womb children of divers kind we sucking on her natural bosom find, many for many virtues excellent, but for some and yet all different. O mickle is the powerful grace that lies in plants, herbs, stones, and their true qualities. For naught to vile that on the earth doth live, but to the earth some special good doth give, nor aught so good but strained from that fair use, revolts from true birth, stumbling on abuse. Virtue itself turns vice being misapplied, and vice sometime by action dignified. So always in these soliloquies, there's some kind of foreshadowing, some kind of messages of positive and negative going on at the same time as you see the innocence of love, the beauty of love, the excitement of love. He seems to mention in all those different things through natural terms and motifs. So Romeo enters and he says, he's still on with his speech. Within the infant rind of this weak flower, poison hath residence and medicine power. For this being smelt with that part, cheers each part. Being tasted, stays all senses with the heart. Two such opposed kings encamp them still, in man as well as herbs, grace and rude will. And where the worser is predominant, full soon the canker death eats up that plant. So as you see in the way he describes in his plant imagery, he seems to talk about a heart. He talks about two opposed kings in camp. That could be the Capulets and the Montagues. He talks about the earth, herbs, grace, and rude. So positive but negative at the same time. He also talks about a canker death eats up that plant. So there could be something, this heart or this love may eat away at these two creatures. You never know. And also he mentions earlier in this soliloquy here about a medicine power and a weak flower. So again, and he mentions the word part. So we see all these different uses of the word that sort of, again, sort of prepare us for something. Romeo then comes in and said, "Good morrow, father. Benedicite, what earth tongue so sweet saluteth me? Young sung, it argues a distempered head so soon to bid good morrow to thy bed. Care keeps his watch in every old man's eye, and where care lodges sleep will never lie. But where unbruised youth with unstuffed brain doth couch his limbs, there golden sleep doth reign. Therefore thy earthiness doth me assure thou art uproused with some distemperature, or if thou not so, then here I hit it right. Our Romeo hath not been in bed tonight." Romeo, that last is true, the sweetest rest was mine. God pardon sin, wast thou with Rosaline? With Rosaline, my ghostly father? No, I have forgot that name and that name's woe. That's my good son, but where hast thou been then? I'll tell thee there thou hast asked it me again. I have been feasting with thine enemy, whereon a sudden one hath wounded me, that by me wounded. Both are remedies, within thy help and holy physic lies. I bear no hatred, blessed man, for lo, my intercession likewise steads my foe. Be plain, good son, and homely in thy drift. Riddling confession finds but riddling shrift. Then plainly know my heart's dear love is set on the fair daughter of rich Capulet. As mine on hers, so hers is set on mine, and all combines, save what thou must combine, by holy marriage, when and where and how we met we wooed, and made exchange of vow. I'll tell thee as we pass, but this I pray, that thou consent to marry us today. Holy Saint Francis, what change is here? Is Rosaline that thou didst love so dear, so soon forsaken? Young men's love then lies not truly in their hearts, but in their eyes. Jesu Maria, what a deal of brine hath washed thy sallow cheeks for Rosaline? How much salt thrown away in waste to season love, that if of it doth not taste, the sun not yet thy sighs from heaven clears, thy old groans yet ringing in mine ancient ears. Lo, here upon thy cheek the stain doth sit of an old tear, a tear that is not washed off yet. If ere thou wast myself, and these woes thine, thou and these woes were all for Rosaline. And art thou changed? Pronounce this sentence then. Women may fall when there's no strength in men. Thou chidest me oft for loving Rosaline, for doting, not for loving, pupil mine, and badst me bury love, not in a grave to lay one in, another out to have. Again we see that lay in one another out to have, not in a grave. So again we see that grave imagery again. Romeo, I pray thee, chide me not. Here I love now. Doth grace for grace and love for love allow. The other did not so. Earlier he's questioning him on his love. How could he love so quickly? And his eyes, is it in his eyes or is it in his heart? And here he says that he definitely does love her, and the other he did not love. So he then says, "Oh, she knew well thy love did not read by rote, that could not spell. But come, young waverer, come go with me." Waverer, like he's like not quite sure whether he's in love or not. "In one respect I'll thy assistant be, for this alliance may so happy prove to turn your household's rancor to pure love." He's saying now that his marriage could again end the rift between these two households, the Capulets and the Montagues. Romeo says, "Oh, let us hence, I stand on sudden haste. Wisely and slow they stumble that run fast." And so he is saying that he will help Romeo in his effort to try to marry Juliet. And then we go to Act 2, Scene 4.